All right, I think we are rocking now. It appears that we actually are. Here's the event. Let me refresh the event. Oh, snap. All right, dude. We got something going finally.
No,
It's a little
we're
clunky.
live.
What's that?
We're live.
We're live. Hooray. So I get to be in the small window up in the top this time because we really don't know what we're doing right now. But we have to,
And he's not lying. It's been,
yeah, no,
we,
YouTube killed Hangouts streaming. And so we're getting OBS figured out, like how to do all that stuff. Anyway, we're here. Josh already gave like a really this is David Giesel. Got Josh Bennett. He's the big one. This
hello.
He already gave a really good preview. We streamed it off of no one, but he gave a really good chat about what's going on with gold right now.
Well,
And
maybe some aliens got to see it.
maybe
And they're
or
like,
maybe
oh,
that cloaked invisible drone over your house sucked all the data in.
they might have.
They
They
might have.
learned something.
It's going to Area 51. Anyway, we'll do an abbreviated. It took us so long to get this going. We'll do an abbreviated show, but we wanted to talk about gold going up and no one talking about it. And when we talk about gold going up, Josh will jump into it. He's already done it once, so he's rehearsed it.
Those are Hearst, yeah.
The gold price is going up, and the stock market is going down at the same time. That's why it's sort of interesting. Yeah.
Well,
So
did I do that? I mean,
yeah. So jump in on that. I'm going to make sure that we actually are streaming while you go there.
all right. Well, I was, first of all, I'd just like to thank David Giesel for the last several hours of making this happen. Thank you. Um, it's been a struggle. That's what happens when you have businesses and jobs and hobbies. Anyway, so gold, if you have not been keeping track, gold here at about, well, when we were trying to start this about 2.5 hours ago, it bumped the about $1,507 an ounce, which is a pretty big jump gold wise in the last month. It was around 1450, 1460 an ounce. And for the last year, it's been hovering the 1200, 1280, 1300 an ounce. And also, we see silver's up $17.20, $17.30 an ounce. And it's been hanging around $13, $14 an ounce for the last year or so. And we think one of the reasons the Great Orange, Donald Trump himself, imposed sanctions of 10% on the remaining $200 or $300 billion of goods that China was supplying us Americans. So he added a 10% tariff to it, which means we get to pay another 10%. China, in retaliation, instead of adding additional tariffs to their own goods or goods that we are exporting to them, they have pegged their currency, the Chinese currency, to the dollar at, I believe, 7 renminbi or yuan. Which one is it? It's both, isn't it? Kind of.
Yeah.
7.
I think it's like two names for the same thing.
Yeah, it's like 7-1. And I think before that it was about 5 to 6. And so what that does, no matter what the dollar, U.S. dollar fluctuates up and down or whatever, the Chinese dollar will stay pegged at a certain rate. And it's lower than what it was, which essentially helps Chinese exporters deal with the increased tariffs. And of course, the Great Orange immediately, well, a whole day after. Here at about, well, when we what did they do? Oh, they announced that China is a currency manipulator. The United States government has proclaimed China a currency manipulator, and of course, the United States of America has been the greatest currency manipulator for the last 115 years, at least since um, the the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, and then some. So it's kind of political doublespeak. That's kind of ridiculous, but the stock market dropped 700 and some points a couple days ago, 500 yesterday. Today it rallied a little bit, 230 points. Um, Most smart people think that it's way overbought in the first place. Um, it's funny. I was actually listening to a sports radio show about football, and for some reason, um, the stock market came up. It was just like, oh, did you see what the stock? Oh yeah, right. Well, it's too high anyways. Every 10 years it crashes, and it's been about 10 years, right? Yeah, it has been. When was that? 2008? Yeah. So it's going to crash again anyways. Oh, um, that's kind of a, no, it's the same subject, but it's a little bit different. So anyways, we see gold going up in relation, smart people see currency fluctuations and the dollar not being stable, so they want to, and especially the stock market not being stable. So they want to park their money into something that's more stable, which is historically gold and or silver and other precious metals. We were discussing this off air when we thought we were on air before. That while in the past, we've heard of things where they use clamshells and different colored rocks for currencies. You can go back into ancient history and see that gold and silver have been used throughout time as a stable currency, because you can't just go create it out of thin air. You can't print it. It takes resources to mine it, and there's a finite amount available right now, and probably a finite amount in the ground. So gold and silver is is something that people look at as a stable currency or a stable place to park their currency. And the big thing that Dave and I wanted to talk, well, not the only thing, but one of the things we were discussing to ourselves over the last week is how interesting it is that no one's talking about it. I think in 2010 or 11, when gold went up to 1,500, everyone was freaking out. I mean, even Fox News. Oh, are you buying gold? Oh, of course I'm buying gold. Um, Same thing with silver. Silver hit $50 back then. Just a mere 8, 9 years ago. Gold, I think, reached 1850, close to 1900 before it dropped. And it's just been interesting this time, unless you're watching Patriots Lament, reading Target Liberty, Economic Policy Journal, maybe some guys on Lou Rockwell, I'm sure, have talked about it, or Ron Paul Liberty Report, Peter Schiff. Outside of that small group that a targeted audience watches or reads, no one's talking about it, and that is pretty interesting. But I bet, maybe, what do you think about this, Dave? I bet folks like Warren Buffett know quite well that gold has gone up and is paying attention, or the evil Soros.
For sure.
I remember the last time Soros had like 50 bazillion ounces of silver that he bought when it was starting to go up, and then he sold it right when it hit the $50 mark, and then it dropped.
Those guys, one of the contrasts between those guys and like your Peter Schiff type investors, they don't disagree with Schiff. They agree with Schiff that gold and silver are great to have in times of volatility. Where they part ways with him, I think they don't part ways with him ideologically. They part ways with him practically.
Right.
Because what they usually say is, yeah, gold and silver are great when you need gold and silver, but when you don't need gold and silver, they don't perform that well. So, which is kind of what we've seen, So what, 2008, um, gold was about $1,000 an ounce, right? And so now it's 1,500 an ounce. So that's like, that's that's better than cash, but not by much. It's a
Right.
50% gain. Like it's not bad. It's okay. But the stock market's gone up 100% or more in that window of time.
Right.
But if you trade out now, then which is what they do, they'll stay in the market and then they pivot out when there's a recession, and then they pivot back in. If you just pick one or the other, well, if you just pick one or the other, you'll get wiped out when the market crashes. If you pick one, pick gold. It's obviously a better choice. But they play it both ways. But yeah, they're
Well, they
conservative.
have a lot of capital to play with.
They do, and they can pivot a significant amount in a way that a regular person totally can't.
Well, they can pivot enough that actually affects the market
Hmm.
value of gold and silver
Hmm. Yeah, they can. Yeah.
if you want to. And then I think that's one of the problems that people look at with gold and silver is that they look at it as a in the eyes of the market. Well, I see gold's doing this, like you just said. I've heard guys on the radio talk about it. What's that guy? Oh, there's some economist, not really economist, but a money help guy, and
Oh, like Dave
he's good on a
Ramsey or
lot of things.
something.
Yeah, Ramsey. Yep,
Okay.
he's good on most everything, except he always says gold sucks. Don't buy gold. That's stupid. Rah rah rah. Because look at all these stock markets go wee, and gold, it went up $300 in the last 2 years. So that's the way that most people look at it. We look at it a different way as maybe a word that people understand is hoarding it. You don't get it to play the market and, oh, it went up $100. I'll sell it now, and you can do that. Then when it goes down, I'll buy some more and then sell it when it goes up. Um, I think the smarter way is you just sit on it. It's something that you have in your possession. Or, some people do um, the they have holdings somewhere or they have stocks, and all that's fine. But it's best you just sit on it. It's not just a rainy day thing. It's like the uh, the flood insurance,
The really
like
rainy day.
Noah's flood. Yeah, the rainy day insurance. Because even if the U.S. dollar tanks someday and it's not worth, let's just say you're a German in 1920, early 1930s, and your Deutschmark was worth as much as a wheelbarrow to get a loaf of bread, or you were using wheelbarrows of it to start your fires with. That can certainly happen to the US dollar. No printed currency is safe from that. But if you have your little coins of gold and or silver, that's not going to happen to that. It just historically never loses all of its value.
Well,
It
even
may go way down. Yeah, what if it's worth not much? Well, it's still going to be worth more than a wheelbarrow full of paper.
yeah, even for folks like you and I'm just tweaking my volume because I have to do that with this application. For folks like
Sound
you
good?
for folks like you and I, um, we've had some of these things since before. Well, since before it was cool, and after it stopped being cool. Like I think we both watched silver go to 50 and then come back. Um, but
I
anyway,
went,
yeah. But as far as gold goes, um, we haven't lost anything on it.
no,
And of course, if you're in the market over the last 10 years, you outperformed gold by quite a bit. But not losing anything is pretty great. And if the market were to crash back to 13,000 or 11,000 tomorrow, mm, we wouldn't lose anything. So if you
right.
want something that's boring, people really like exciting investment vehicles, except when they lose money. And if you just don't want to stress it and you just want a place to dump value, gold's a great place to do it. Most folks, I think the way most people end up saving is in their home, because
Yeah,
most folks don't put a bunch of money aside. They just pay down a mortgage or something. So that's not all that different than gold, except it's not portable. And you do see really big volatility in the housing market sometimes. There's bigger upside sometimes, but there's a lot bigger downside. And you can't transport it, and you can't sell a fraction of it either. I mean, you can mortgage out a fraction of your house, but it's not easy to get rid of a small piece.
Well, you
So,
don't have to repaint it, put new shingles on, change the glass, put new flooring,
yep,
any of that.
very good
No
point.
upkeep needed.
Right. It's not a depreciating asset. Yeah, houses
Yeah.
only appreciate when the housing market's going up, but they age, and your gold coins don't. So, yeah.
Well, maybe a good way to look at it for some folks is that in the Bible, when it talks about heaven, it doesn't say that the streets are paved with Federal Reserve notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's paved with something a little more, even biblically, it's seen as a lot more valuable than a fiat currency.
What do you think the prospects are for US dollar volatility?
Well, I see that Congress just passed with Trump's shining smile, orange smile, of borrowing 1.32 trillion now this year.
To cover the budget shortfall?
Yeah, that's their expenditures. They want to spend more. Um, One of our pet peeves, they agreed to up the military budget 1.7 trillion dollars over the next 2 years.
That's the
Key.
increase.
Yes,
Well,
1.7 trillion
well,
dollars over the next 2 years, and the deficit, the borrowing is 1.23 trillion or 32 trillion, something like that. That's the new spending. So obviously they're going to have to print, sell bonds, all this kind of. I mean, the volatility I think is probably the highest it's been since we've talked about what it. We've talked about, oh man, the dollar is really volatile. Rah, 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 rah. It really is. It really is. Trump, I think, since he's been in office, is next year will have increased the deficit or the debt by $3 trillion. That's pretty rock solid for a guy that complained about Obama's um, debt while he was in office of about 4 trillion, I think, 4 or 5.
hmm
Of course, Trump wants to do everything better than the last guy, so he's going to
It's
show him how to really
huge.
spend money. Huge. You think our debt's big now? It's going to be really huge. And the deficit, which is funny that he kind of got elected on barking about the deficit. The deficit this year is going to be over $1 trillion. So I think the dollar sucks. It still is the world reserve currency. So it has that. It's still the petrodollar. It has that. But there are emerging currencies. There are large, well, Russia and China do not like us because we're not very nice to them. And I think they're trading in the ruble now instead of the US dollar. And Russia's selling China trillions of cubic feet of natural gas and oil and this and that because China's growing and growing and growing. And I think every little chink that's taken out of the dam that is the U.S. currency, every time they take another brick out, eventually it's going to go poof. I mean, if people just think, well, it's never going to just fail because they don't know anything about the sterling, the pound. When was that? 1910s, 1920s was it when the people were eating rats in London when they were used to be the world currency? No, they have to use ours. If they think, well, it could never get that bad, fine. Think about 2007, 2008. I had a lot of friends, employees that had older folks that were within 10 years of retiring that had all their money sunk into the Dow, the stock market, and they lost everything, every dime. One friend of mine, he's about 15 years older than I am, I think, and he lost. He had all his savings in the stock market, $287,000 overnight. It was gone, and he had to start all over. If he would have bought gold with that, he'd still have it today.
Even if he bought,
Because
let's say he bought gold and it was only worth $42,000 or something.
right,
Yeah,
you still have it.
you still have
It
it.
doesn't. It doesn't go away.
Hmm.
That's the thing. I mean, there's a whole nother side to owning gold and silver about the real money and stuff like that, which I don't think that's fun to talk monetary wise. With friends of ours like John Galt and different old timers here in Fairbanks that understand what currencies really are and what
Hmm.
fiat currency and stuff. But as a practical matter, it's just what you just said. It's right unless they come take it away, and they're never going to do that again. I don't think they're just America's too huge for them to try stuff like that. It's just like gun control. They're never going to come take our guns because America's too big.
Hmm.
There's not enough of them versus the other side of versus the people. There's too many people these days to have total domination and control over everyone. It's just not feasible. And plus, Americans are less trustworthy of the government than they were when Roosevelt was president.
Right.
I mean, it was God and country back then. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have Patriots Lament to watch and go, those guys suck. Um, there was a whole different attitude towards, excuse me, towards the government back then. They trusted their government. They thought the government was always looking out for their best interests. When Roosevelt said, "We have to confiscate, you got to turn in your gold bullion and coins because it's destroying our market," everyone went, "We trust you." Not everyone, but a majority. Today, people would say, "Nah, screw you. We don't trust you at all." But no one trusts the government. Doesn't matter who they are. Even people that work for the government don't trust the government anymore.
Right. Everybody, yeah, it's everybody's in on the game of musical chairs with no chairs.
Yeah. Trump doesn't trust the government.
Right.
He doesn't even
Right.
he doesn't
Yeah.
trust the FBI. He doesn't trust Congress. He doesn't
And the
trust the
FBI
Supreme
doesn't
Court.
trust him.
No, right. It's a
Almost like
circular game of eating themselves.
right.
So I just when people talk because I'm sure we've both heard it before about, well, what if they come take it? They're never going to do that again. Dig a hole, put it in the ground, do something. I mean, don't worry about it. You can't live your life in that kind of fear anyway. It's just like with the guns. Don't. My brother Aaron always talked about Australia because they were really proud of themselves when they came to confiscate guns. They buried them. And he's like, "What? It's a lot of good out there in the ground there. All right, good to go." But I mean, what I'm saying is they're not going to do it. Don't worry about it. If you want to invest in a little bit of gold, and we've said this for 8 years now, Dave, you don't have to go buy 20 ounces of gold. You don't even have to buy an ounce of gold. You can buy a tenth. If you can't afford a tenth, that's I looked today and a tenth's about 1,600 or $160, $166 to buy a 10th ounce.
Hmm.
Um, buy one piece of silver for $17. If you can't afford an ounce of silver, maybe you can afford a 10th ounce for $1.70.
Yeah. If you can't
They
afford it,
sell they sell fifths, 1/5 ounce for like $10. You know,
yeah. Yeah. If you can't afford an ounce of silver, you can't afford to worry about the price of gold and silver.
true.
Like
You got other problems.
go get a job or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
if you
the 10th ounce gold coins, a lot of people don't like them because the premium's higher.
yeah,
But you get the premium back when you sell them usually.
yep.
So
Oh, I was looking at some buyers for gold coins, ones that people that I've watched before and actually dealt with, and they were buying at 1750 yesterday,
okay.
higher than what I was watching the market, which I don't know why, unless they know something. In my mind, they were saying they see something. They're just trying to not 1750. I'm sorry, 1570 is what it
Yeah,
was. So it was
70.06.
like, yeah. And so in my mind, it was just like they're trying to bait people to sell them their gold for some reason. Because it's not, it's going to keep going up. That's why they know it, or they're going to risk that
Yeah,
it's going to keep going up.
they're placing their bets.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's going to
So
be interesting.
there is for folks on the crypto side of things as well.
Yeah, I was
The
hoping you bring that up.
yeah yeah it's a little painful to bring up, but yeah. Um,
That's why I didn't want to bring it up.
you can well, so what's interesting is Bitcoin has rebounded most of its value, like it's up to half of what its peak was, which is
Hmm.
crazy. Um, Ether, not so much. Ethereum is like a quarter of its peak value still. And it's funny because Bitcoin as a blockchain technology is no longer really that cool. Like it doesn't do the stuff that the new ones do. But as far as that's the whole thing. As far as being money, like there's a couple fundamental traits, characteristics of money. One of them is it's easily recognizable, and one of them is it's widely accepted.
Mm,
And a lot of the folks who have ideologically stayed away from Bitcoin because it's old school now, myself included, have been waiting for something like Ether, which is a way cooler technology, a lot more useful to surpass Bitcoin. But Bitcoin kind of put the stake in the ground and said, "I am digital money."
right.
It was the first widely accepted one, and still is the most widely accepted. And it's interesting because it's the reserve currency of the blockchain world, which is kind of funny. You could look at it that way. It's not exactly that, but you could look at it that way. Um, but you can buy gold through blockchain. You can buy Digix, DGD. Um, DGD is Digix DAO. That is the company that has a gold backed blockchain, and DGX is the token. That's a Digix token. I think every DGX is 1 gram of gold or something like that, and it's
Mm.
redeemable. I believe you can actually redeem the physical. Um, but it's very stable. It's basically pegged to gold because they have a gram of gold for every DGX token that's been issued.
Going back old school, back to grams.
Back in grams, yeah. So
That's
I
pretty
should actually
cool.
pull it up on my coin stats here. Um,
And when we're talking about value, I just want to throw this in. It's kind of we're saying value kind of loosely because we're pegging these values in U.S. currencies and the U.S. dollar. So when we say its value's gone up, what we're saying is versus the dollar.
right.
So it's not that an ounce of gold is worth 1,500 whatever's, but versus the U.S. dollar, it is worth 1,500 of those U.S. dollars. So that's what we mean when we're talking values about Bitcoin, silver, and gold. We're butting these two things together. It's the world reserve currency. It's the one that everyone uses, the U.S. dollar. So that's why we're saying that gold or you know anything gold, silver, Bitcoin, or anything like that is worth as much as someone's willing to pay you. That's true value. If you have a really shiny, awesome looking piece of gold that's only 1 ounce, but it's magnificent for some reason, someone might want to give you $3,000 for it. That's that actual value to one person. So we're generalizing.
We are
Gold is worth
generalizing.
this much. Yeah, U.S. gold to
Here
make
is
it
Digix.
easy.
Here's DGX. Nobody will be able to see this because it's on the little screen in the little screen.
47.76,
Yeah, so it's
up
not.
7.81%.
It's a quarter gram, or it represents some fractional amount of gold, but it's quite. If you can see the chart, it's pretty flat. That's all time. It's only been issued for about a year. But it's pretty flat because it's linked to gold. And then DGD is the company. Um, DGD is the company, and it's a little bit more volatile. And I didn't sell it at the top. See that spike?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I made sure to not sell it when it hit that spike. I was like, this
that's
thing's going to the moon, baby.
that's good.
So basically, this is when they launched their token, and it went up like crazy. And then since then, they've just been kind of riding it out. But it's a cool way to own gold that you can trade on a crypto exchange. So if you're on a crypto exchange and you're trading Ethereum and whatever, and Bitcoin and all these things, yeah, Bitcoin's up to 12,000 again. Stupid. Ethereum's
Yeah,
only up to 216. Ethereum got up above 800, so it's only 25% of its peak value. Bitcoin is up to two-thirds of its peak value. And if you're trading these things and you want to trade out of something into something stable, you can trade into DGX. And then there's other stuff like Tether. Um, Let me poke Tether. Tether is tethered to US dollars,
yep.
so it's always right about $1, super stable. Anyway,
Well, I'm glad that you didn't break our tradition of selling something when it was most valuable, David.
yeah, why would you want to do that?
No,
It's stupid.
yes. Let's keep the trend.
Keep the trend.
Fail.
Yes. Yeah, about the best I've done is not losing money buying gold.
Right, exactly. That's funny. One thing I wanted to bring up is that the rate gold silver ratio right now is about 87, 88 to 1, which is pretty interesting. In further back times, if you want to say it that way, in older times than now, the historical ratio is 16 to 1. So silver's got a lot of catching up to do historically to where its big brother gold is sitting. Um, Dave and I have talked about this quite a bit. A lot of people do when there is such a wide ratio. They'll sell their gold, or not sell. They'll trade their gold for silver, just a straight out swap, and then they'll hang on to that till silver catches up, and they'll swap back. And I've talked to some people that are pros. Dave and I's a friend of ours here at the gold shop here in Fairbanks about that, and he says you got to be really good to do that
Oh,
because
the
a lot of time
swapping.
the premiums will kill you. But I've done a little bit of calculating. Premiums don't touch 87 to 1 right now. Especially if it did do the historical 16 to 1. Yeah, you'd be big time in,
One of the
big
cool
time
things,
ahead.
one of the cool things we can do, despite all the clumsiness with this new streaming thing, is I can now move this window. You won't see this, but it'll show up on the live stream. I have a chart of the gold to silver ratio
What?
for the last
Awesome.
100 years, and it is on the screen right now for people to see. I'm going to put it right in the middle.
You can take big screen now if you want. I've had my day of glory.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Nice.
We'll figure that out later. Um,
That's awesome.
I'm just glad we got it working. Uh,
Hey,
yeah, little victories. Okay, so I'm just gonna fly through this really quick. So right now, December. This is December 1915 through May 2019 is basically what it is. So from 1916 to 1929, so through the Roaring Twenties, basically, the ratio was below 40 to 1. And
hmm,
then during the Depression, from 29 to basically the end of the war, to 1954, actually a decade after the end of the war, it was above 40. And then it was below 40 from 54 to kind of sort of the 1980s. And then since the 1980s, it's been 40. Let's see, it peaked 1991, it was up to 96 to 1.
wow.
And then April 2011, it was down to 31.6. That was when silver hit $50.
Yeah.
And then right now it's up at 87.2. So the only time it's been as high as it is now, it's above 80. July 2019, it's at 87. 1991, it was above 80. And 1941, it was above 80.
Mm.
So who knows where it's going? But if you look at that chart, I don't know. I mean, you can do all sorts of voodoo looking at charts, so I'll stay away from that.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it
It's
seems
just
like not a
it's
bad time
fun.
to do some swappage. We were talking about what maybe to do when gold hits 2000.
Hmm.
And a thing to do might be to sell some and have some cash and to
Yeah,
trade some into silver.
yeah. I don't. I think that gold will hit 2,000 way before silver will hit 50.
Hmm.
So the ratio is going to be outrageous, outrageous. Now, Ron Paul and Richard Mayberry, their long-term projections is again comparative to the U.S. dollar is 10,000 to one. U.S.
Gold.
dollar to 1 ounce of gold. Yeah,
Okay, so they're saying the real price of gold is 10,000 an ounce.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Which is interesting, and it takes a lot of doings, but they're pretty smart, and they think we'll see it sometime in actual. And we know that there are manipulators out there. Great powers not only manipulate their currencies, they manipulate other valuable things as gold and silver and different things like that. And so part of that is in the relinquishing of this power that they have, not by choice, but when something that just falls apart and they no longer have the ability to do such things, it would see the true value of it, and which would be that.
Right.
And it's not really hard to me. It's not that hard to believe because the dollar's a piece of junk. It has nothing, literally nothing backing it up. At $23 trillion of debt.
It has inertia about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. Right now it has trading value, obviously, but it's so sketchy because there's what is it? It's a piece of paper, and they keep printing them.
Yeah. Well, it's not even worth, it's worth the paper it's not printed on.
Right, exactly right. We can have the same piece of paper that says 100 or one. Hmm. And, people. It's kind of run its course now, but Zimbabwe people like to talk about it when it happened, and they had their $100 trillion note, which I actually have one in my music room, and Ron Paul sent it to me, and I stuck a little picture of. So he sent me, I forget why, but he sent me $100 trillion um, Zimbabwe note with 1 ounce of silver, and said, "Which one has value?" And that's yeah. It can happen to any fiat currency, any printed paper money. It could happen to.
Yeah,
That's pretty
it'll be
cool.
interesting to see if it happens in our time.
Yeah.
I watch the Canadian US Forex quite a bit because I bank in both and you can just trade, if you have a US and if you have a US dollar and Canadian dollar account within the same master bank account, you can just slosh money around between the two of them. And the bank takes like 2 or 3%. So you got to make sure the swing is big enough to do it. And then the
Right.
bank the bank tells you what your equivalent exchange income was for the year, and you pay taxes on that. But it's just kind of cute, like I can do it. So I watched the forex, and I've been watching it since gold has been marching upwards, and it hasn't. It's actually the dollar has been strengthening. The U.S. dollar has been strengthening against the Canadian dollar, while gold has been going up relative to the U.S. dollar, which is weird because the,
Yes.
the Canadian dollar is sort of a proxy commodity dollar because Canada's economy is energy and natural resources largely timber, hydroelectric power, oil, and mineral resources. Like and then there's technology and stuff. But anyway, I'm watching this divergence where gold is running away from dollars and dollars are running away from Canadian dollars. I'm not sure what to make of it yet, but I'm keeping my eye on it. So
Well, that's actually really interesting because the dollar is going up. I mean, you can look on those currency deals where it shows all, a whole bunch of different countries' currencies versus a dollar, and it's not like the dollar is going down versus them by any stretch. If anything, it's going up. The dollar index, I think, is going up, which is
what is
weird. And
what is
even
it versus
oil's
euros?
down. I don't know, but if it's anything over 115 or 118, it's pretty dang good.
Dude, it's 89.89 euros per dollar.
Wow. So it's a
Yeah,
buck 11.
yeah. It's at I got a chart here. It's at a high since, let's see. It's at a high since 2017. It's at a 2-year high right now.
What was it when gold was at its 1850, 19? Or was it 19? I forget what it peaked. Because it seemed like it wasn't that long ago, and it seems like it was during the same time that the euro was 140 to 1.
I know, I know. I need to find a bigger chart. Okay, here we go. We're gonna need a bigger boat.
Dollar
Um,
40 to $1.
140 to 1. So that was down here when it was point 0.6. I'm looking at it the other way around.
No, right.
$1 will
0.6.
buy 9 tenths of a euro right now. So $1 would buy point 0.6 euros in 2008. That was at the bottom of the housing market, right?
Wow. And that's
Yeah,
when
and
the
see, I can
gold
I
was
can
going
actually I can
boom.
do this too. I'm just gonna do this because I can because here we are. Um, so here's where we are now, right here, point nine euros per dollar right now. So it's been ticking up since 2000, since the bottom in 2008. What about
How is that possible?
that's interesting. I'm gonna do it against GBP because that one's fun. Pounds. 0.82 pounds sterling. Wow, crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. Crazy. Let me pull up a 5-year chart. Yeah,
The ster-
it's at a 5-year high against the holy crap, it's at like a 10-year high. It's at probably an all-time high against the pound. Dude,
wow.
yeah, so 2008 it was 2 to 1. A dollar was worth a dollar was worth 0.49 pounds. 0.49
Wow.
pounds. And now it's worth 0.82.
And so the dollar's got to be going up versus them going down because oil, I saw, which kind of boggled my mind, oil's down to $52 a barrel today.
Right?
And I instantly assumed with other commodity like precious metals going up, because like palladium's, I think platinum's the only thing that's like, what are you doing? Don't you see what your brothers and sisters are doing?
Mm-hmm.
But oil's like, it was up to 60 just a month and a half ago, I think. And now it's down to, or close to 60. 62, I think, even a month ago, month and a half. Now it's down to 52. So it's just a weird deal with gold going up. Now it might be, who knows, maybe because large state actors are purchasing a lot of gold. I know Russia purchased another, 400,000 trillion ounces again the other day. And China buys, I think China actually, I don't remember if we talked about this. China actually outlawed exporting their domestic gold.
You mentioned that.
The China's keeping it. Yeah, no more
Does that
selling
apply
our
to
gold.
like if you are just a Chinese, citizen? Does that apply to you, or is that a
I
government
think that's
policy?
mining
Oh,
government. Yeah,
oh, exports. Got it.
yeah, no more exporting.
Right.
And Russia's buying it, which is interesting because assume they're much like a lot. They have gold. I don't know. Must be cheaper for them to buy it than to mine it right now. Of
Sure.
course, they're not a total communist country either, where they can just say you have to give us all your gold.
Right.
So some of the gold they're buying might be domestic purchases. but they have been buying it like crazy. So is India. All the kind of major world actors are buying it, except for the U.S. I think the U.S. is just keeping the stuff that everyone put in their vaults.
Yes, yes, in New York. You made a
Yeah,
comment yesterday that I thought was really interesting. You said that, and I agreed, I concurred. You said that it's exciting when there's price action in the gold market because it means something real is happening.
yeah,
What
yes.
do you mean by that?
And you emphasized real too, which is exactly what. It's not just something happening. There's something real. So what I meant by that was there's an undercurrent. There's something behind the scenes that is not obvious to just reading a newspaper or whatever. There's actually something going on um, with that particular commodity, with precious metals, with currency itself. There's something going on behind the scenes that's not that you're not going to get on Fox News. Something, a real move is happening. Not just like, oh, look, I see that blah, blah, blah is going on. Like real forces, market forces are happening, which is more real than state acting. I honestly think it's a market force that's making a move. What
Gold
it is, who
Gold's
knows?
interesting too because it's globally traded like oil. It's not like
Right.
Apple stock or
Yeah.
even it's more like I mean it's more like an oil stock, but even oil companies are sort of national. So
Yeah.
it's like a universal global ballot on the economy.
Yeah. I'd like to look at, I think it's like in Alaska time, 4 p.m. You can start watching what's going on in Asia and stuff. What's going on with gold? They'll start. The gold price starts moving then.
Hmm.
It doesn't wait for the American markets to open up.
Yeah, the global market is only closed for what, a half hour a day on gold?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
It's fun. It's a
yeah.
lot more fun. You can just, if you have a phone app, you can just watch it and literally watch it go peep 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 peep, like some do with the stock market. It does the same thing, but to me, that's just digits. Whether there's actual value there or not on the stock market doesn't. Who knows?
Who knows?
Especially when everyone that's even the ones that are selling stocks are saying, "Yeah, this is a bubble." But with gold, it's a little bit different. Like,
It is.
something real is happening.
I'm poking through the different metals here, and um, gold has, its peak several years ago, 2012 or so, and then it goes down and then it comes back up. Silver
Hmm.
just kind of falls off the face of the earth. It has that peak of
Yeah,
50, and then it's just like, wow, even now, it's just way down. And then we
that's why
talked
it's good
about,
to give your kids for Christmas gifts.
yeah, yeah, some silver bucks. We were talking about platinum. Platinum's the same way. Platinum has just been destroyed. It peaked at 1800 or 1900 in 2011. It's nothing right now. It's 870 right now. It's half its peak. It's less than half of its peak. And it's half
No good music.
what's that?
There's no good music out there. No one's making platinum records.
No one's making platinum records anymore. Right, it's digital downloads. That's the thing. But then you have palladium. Have you looked at palladium?
Yeah, it's going rock solid. Boom, up.
Palladium
It's
was 800,
destroying platinum.
800 an ounce in 2011, 1400 an ounce now. And then rhodium,
Yeah.
rhodium similar. Rhodium was 3,000 an ounce in 2011. Well, it's up a little bit. The price actually, it's more stable. It was 3,300 an ounce, and now it's 3,500 an ounce. But rhodium's weird.
But
Um,
platinum was usually ahead of or at least it rode up with the rest of the stuff. This is like the first time I've seen where it's just flatlined.
yeah,
It's
it's
not
totally
doing any or
decoupled.
going down.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
which that's real. Who knows what's going on there? That that's kind of the fun thing, right? If you're watching the stock market, at least to me, you can get a bazillion different ideas from the talking heads of what's going on with the stock market. And all of them are lies, except for maybe what Ron Paul or Peter Schiff are talking about the stock market. I mean, that's just the truth. And if we want to, people might scoff, oh, you guys are just Ron Paul suckers. Yes, we are. And this is why. Because in 2001, 2, and 3, no later than 2003, Ron Paul and Peter Schiff were saying, in 2007, there's going to be a housing market crash. And guess what happened? Boop, housing market crash. They called it years before, not like the day before. Remember when we used to watch that video all the time of Peter Schiff on Fox News saying, it's going to happen on this year, and they were going, you're an idiot. Oh, my God, how this idiot would watch you. Oh, my gosh, you're such an idiot. This is never going to end. The housing's never going to end. You're just a fool. I can't believe it. And then it happened. And then the next day, instead of those people losing their jobs, their careers, and everything they own and put into a laughing stock jail, they're still on there going, yep. Oh man, yeah, we told you, but we'll help you get out of this because we're smart, and we're not going to have Peter Schiff on anymore because he'll say "told you so."
Never again. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, they're the same ones who missed Orange Man.
Oh, didn't they miss the Orange Man?
Yeah.
Yes, they did. So I bring that up because we're basing this. There are some people that know a little bit more than the mainstream talking heads, and even if they're wrong, usually when their predictions are wrong, you've lost nothing.
Yeah. You've lost what you didn't get.
Yep.
It's an imaginary loss, yeah. And it's easy to see what you didn't get. Yeah, but you don't nobody went broke. Nobody went broke buying gold, but nobody got
Right.
super rich doing it either.
Yep. Because it's not what it's about.
It's not what it's about.
It's stability.
It's a Toyota Camry.
It's always there.
Yeah. It'll get you to work on time.
Well, you might be a phenomenon on that. I don't know. I don't know if that's for everyone.
Oh,
Yours will
if the
always get you
Camry
to
is for
work on
everyone, I
time.
don't know. The V6
Yeah.
Camry is pretty sweet, but it's
No, I
still.
don't mean not for everyone. I just mean for it actually working for this long, getting them to work. I don't know if that works for everyone.
Oh yeah,
You might be a phenom in that whole thing on your
right,
own.
right.
Start a YouTube channel. My Camry.
That's right. Yeah, I don't even have to drive my Camry to work.
That's even better.
It is even better. Yeah. Well, so that's really cool. Yeah, no one's talking about gold. There's some price action right now. It's worth checking out. The price action is weird. The price action is weird. It's decoupled. It's moving independent of the industrial metals. Silver and platinum, the industrial metals, are flat, or yeah, they're flat or declining
Yeah.
even. Um, the dollar is going up. Gold's going up more. And the Canadian dollar, I haven't looked at the Australian dollar, but probably the same thing, which is a commodity dollar basically, is dropping relative to the US
Yeah.
dollar and gold. So, yeah, something's going on.
It's weird. Something real's going on. It's
Something
really
real.
strange.
Yeah.
Which is fun. I mean, it should be fun. I was just looking to see if I have. So I'm using my phone to broadcast here today, and all my cool apps for gold are on that one. So I just seen if I put any on this little tablet thing. Because that one app we have, or
The
at least one that
Kitco?
I have, yeah. If you go to currencies, it'll tell you like the top 20 currencies versus the dollar, I think. And I don't see it.
More. Oh, do they have currencies on it? Really? There's markets. Oh, look at that. Holy cow. You're a pro user.
Yeah, I spent a few minutes on it in my
What
life.
should I sort by?
I think if you just hit currency, well, I don't know. It's been currencies and I think US dollar, it should like give you um, the top 10 right off the bat, if I remember right.
percent change. How would I sort? I got currencies up. Well, let's look at here's AUD, Australian dollar, 146. Oh my God. It's 147.
Wow.
147 Australian dollars per US dollar. It's awful. It's at its lowest since it's at its lowest in the last 10 years by a huge margin right now. Um, Canadian dollar Canadian dollar is very low. It's very low compared to when I moved here, the Canadian dollar was worth slightly more. 7 years ago, the Canadian dollar was worth slightly more than the US dollar. Now it's worth much less. Still, Great Britain pound. Yep, same deal with the pound. Let's look at Swiss francs.
Is everyone letting their currency drop?
Swiss francs are flat over the last 10 years.
Okay.
And then
Well,
China's
that's
flat.
interesting.
China had a big dip and then they repegged flat.
Hmm. Yeah, they re. So maybe everyone's kind of playing some kind of game because of all the tariffs. Could that be possible?
That would be possible. One thing I've heard that I've never really liked, but seems to be more true than I would acknowledge, is that there's quite a few people who are on, mainstream news shows or whatever and say, yeah, the US dollar sucks. No question. Everything else sucks more.
Right. I think as yucky as that sounds, it's probably true.
Probably true. What's interesting, and the U.S. economy is recovering right now in a pretty big way. Like it's unemployment's just at crazy low numbers and stuff. Um,
Actually, that's um, changing.
oh, with the minimum wage stuff.
Minimum wage or minimum unemployment went up the last quarter. First
Okay,
time in many times. I forget. I read that. I forget where I even read it. Probably Economic Policy Journal. And my tablet's not working at all now. Ugh. I throw this thing in the slew. So I'm just talking. I can't verify.
I got a chart
But I'm
here.
pretty sure last quarter, I believe it went up.
I got a
Unemployment
chart
went
here.
up.
I think that's a historical norm though,
For this time of
because
year, I thought
yeah,
it usually goes down because of harvest and stuff like that.
I'm looking at the chart here, and it looks like it's in a seasonal swing where it goes up,
Okay.
but the trend line is still down. So they claim that it was down to 3.5 US. It was down to 3.4%, and now it's up to 3.8, is what they claim.
Wait, what? They're saying that unemployment's 3.8?
Yeah, dude, the Great Orange comes in 2016, right?
It was like 7 or 8?
Did he come in 2016 or 20? Yeah, 2016.
Well, got elected 16. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're
So
showing that it
17 was his
was,
first year.
five and a half, five, whatever, but it had been steadily going down according to them, and now it's supposedly below 4%.
That's garbage. I mean, well, yeah. Well, let's see. Who were we reading back then? Even when it was at 7, 5, 6, 7, they were saying real unemployment was like 17.
Yeah, because of
I mean,
because
you're
of how
getting
they run the
government
stats and
numbers,
everything, for
right?
sure. But everybody games their stats, and so as a relative comparison, I think it's not so bad.
True. That's a
Um,
good point.
but on this chart, there's France. It's still like at 10% with all the
They
gains.
suck.
It's
They
yeah, that's
really
rough.
suck.
But anyway, that
Well,
has
before we jump off of that. Um, Never mind. I just went blank.
off
The
unemployment.
huh. Oh well. Sorry. What was I gonna say about unemployment?
I don't know. We were talking about real unemployment and the reporting
Yeah.
issue, but
Oh well.
I will
Oh
say
yeah, I do remember.
okay.
If you take out government employment, how high would that be?
Oh yeah, yeah. Different story.
Because how strong is your economy? If you talk about how strong is the Fairbanks North Star Borough economy, oh, it's great. It's down to, I don't know what the percentage is, but I do know that 76% of the people that live here work for the government.
Yep.
So that's not a real economy.
No.
That's
That
stealing from one to give other people jobs. So that kind of unemployment, I think, is garbage. Just so wrong. It's
that could
not
be
real.
what gold is indicating is that yeah, the US economy is by all the metrics healthier than it's been in a long, long, long time. But everything is so gamed up now that that doesn't mean anything. And maybe the
Right.
crash.
There's
This is what Peter Schiff. This is what Peter Schiff and Ron Paul and all these guys, going back to the '70s, talked about. Is eventually the cracks start to show in a way that you can't fill them in anymore.
right. And there's so much water behind the crack, you can't push your hand up against it because the pressure is too high.
Right.
You'll have hydraulic cutting of your hands.
Yes.
Yeah, you might have hit it, Dave. Maybe that's what it is. Because the Great Orange is talking about how great the economy is, blah blah blah, but he's not saying because we're spending 1.7 trillion dollars on military crap, which the Ron Paul Institute did a thing. I think it's like 8% was actually defense. The rest was just spending.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's welfare for military contractors.
Right, which they're in every state.
Yeah.
Right, they're building something in every, like the F-35. Every United States state has some sort of factory or something that's making money off of that, and it might be Fairbanks North Star Borough economy's doing great because all these people are working, but 76% of them are working for the government.
Yeah.
And maybe gold's finally able to pull itself through that blinder and rip open a little bit of the plastic and bust through a little bit
Right.
because it's not real. I mean, oh, we got all these jobs on roads because we just passed a $1 trillion road and bridge package, infrastructure package. Okay, is that real economy? No, because they have to borrow all $1 trillion.
I have a little story about that. Corey and I we went to church with Natalie on Sunday, and in the basement of the church they have a pool table, right? And all the kids hang like after the service, the kids were hanging out down there. They're like serving watermelon slices, so we went down, and the kids
Dang.
there were like 8 kids around the pool table, and there were kids who really enjoyed putting the balls in the pockets as fast as they can. And there were kids who really enjoyed pulling them out of the little ball collection area and putting them back on the table as fast as they could. And so for like an hour and a half straight, these 8 kids were just like seeing who could get the balls on the table the fastest and who could get them back off the fastest. And, and Corey was like, "Hey, look at that! It's how the economy works."
Yeah. Wow, that's really good.
Yeah. No value. Well, you could say no value is being created, except the kids were totally enamored with
Right.
this activity. There was, and they, like nobody's fingers got smashed. Like the balls are flying all around. Nobody got hurt. Nobody was crying. They just got a solid hour and a half of total bliss. And we just got to sit there and watch all these balls just go.
That is the U.S. economy.
Yeah, it totally, totally was, which is awesome.
Maybe the world economy. Who knows?
Maybe the world economy. Yeah.
Hmm. That's one thing that I think people fail to remember. When they look at the dollar's got to crash any moment, where the whole world is so invested in the dollar that it's in all of their best interest to keep. I mean, there's a certain way to look at it, like it may not be in China's best interest, but it kind of is still in China's best interest. The whole world's best interest, to a point, is to keep the dollar going because they're so heavily invested in it. Um, I think it's 80 some % of the new dollars that were created in the last couple of years have all gone overseas.
Right.
Very little of it stays in the States.
Well, it's one of the conundrums with everybody who's good at making money right now is good at playing the game that's being played now. And
Right.
everybody knows that game can't go on forever. But if there's a new game that emerges, you'll have to develop new tools and learn the new rules. And so it's to everyone's advantage to just keep playing. It's to everyone's advantage that's doing well to keep playing the game that's already being played. And they'll
Right.
probably adapt well to the next game, but it's easier just to keep the music going.
Yeah, and the people that aren't doing well don't have the means to change the game
Right.
because there's such a great divide there.
Right.
I mean, when you talk about like, there's a lot of power, a lot of wealth, a lot of power that's going
Yeah.
to try to keep it going. I still think, and I'm interested to see if you still think this. I still think there are not necessarily laws of economics that eventually say no, you can't keep doing this. It's gone further than anyone's ever imagined, but I think they're just getting drunk off that going further than it's ever imagined because it can't go. It just feasibly can't keep doing this.
No, it can't, but uh,
But it's doing great.
it's doing great, but it can't keep going. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works. So in my area here where I'm living, my house, um, supposedly the Canadian housing market had rolled over, or at least flattened out. And I bought my place like a year and a half ago, and it's already gone. Well, it hasn't. I haven't sold it, so I haven't realized any appreciation. But houses on my block are going for 50% more, 30 to 50% more than my house went for when I bought it
Wow.
in like a year and a half. And so when I bought it,
Whoa.
yeah, when I bought it, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, the Canadian housing market finally rolled over," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "C'est la vie," but that's fine. I got a place to live. And then there's 2 or 3 houses for sale on my block now, but I think 10 have sold in the last year, and they all just keep going up, 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 up. And I've been wondering, it's like, how long can the housing market go up? Well, maybe the right question is, how high is inflation? Right? What's real? Because you hear Ron Paul, for example, you mentioned earlier, says the real price of gold is 10,000 an ounce. Well, if that's true, then housing prices probably should go up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, inflation's something that we haven't even talked about, which is such an important factor. I mean, it's just like I was saying with all the money that's going out of the U.S., the new dollars printed and all this and that. One of the advantages that the United States has with that is it's also exporting its inflation with those dollars.
Right? That's right.
What a game.
Yeah.
What's so funny is that they don't even, I am convinced it wasn't planned. It's just the way it's worked out.
Well,
Because there's no way they sat down at some point and were like, if we do this and this will happen, they're just not that smart. It's just the way it's been happening.
so the game of pool that I was talking about, where the kids were throwing the balls,
Yeah,
there were no rules to that. It's just there was a table and there were balls and
right.
the kids approached and it just organized itself. And there was like an hour or more of no fighting in this game being played. So one of the things that Jordan Peterson has talked about is that there's this guy, Jean Piaget, he was like a child behavioral specialist guy. He studied children's behavior to try to understand all sorts of things. And one of the things that he observed was that children are really good at learning how to play new games, right? It's remarkable how good they are at learning how to play new games.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take a kid, okay, and you insert him into a situation where he's got to learn a new game or she has to learn a new game, they'll learn it really quick. And then you pull them out of the game and you say, do you like that game? How was it? And they go, oh, that game's the best. I love playing that game now. You say, okay, what are the rules? What are the rules of that game? No clue. They will not be able to articulate the rules. They've learned how to play the game without violating the rules, but they can't describe what the game is and they can't describe what
Right.
the rules are. It's only until like 2 or 3 years later that they can say, here's the rules, but the way that you learn how to play a game isn't based on the rules; it's just based on jumping in, and that's totally what's going on with this fiat currency thing. And I
Wow,
think like
that's really good.
the Schiff, Ron Paul folks, and Mises, let's say, hey, here's the rules, and if you play the game this way, it doesn't work. But no one else learned the rules. They just were inserted in the game and they're playing it and they're having a good time. And the breakdown is predicted by the rules. But if you've just been playing the game, you don't know what the rules are. You just know that this is how you play it.
Could it be that the way we've come to know things economics wise with the rules is the game rules say this because this is the way the market really works. You're manipulating the market. Is the ever powerful market actually working anyways, despite what's going on?
For sure.
I mean, kind of like, with the communists, let's say. We'd say that communism eventually failed because the almighty market overpowered it, which really pretty much what happened to it. They went broke. The market rules won. Um, Maybe the market's working within the game and they don't even know it. And we're saying the rules say the market has to work like this. And the market's going, I don't have any rules. I can keep working this way. They might think they're playing a game that they don't know, but there's still rules. And I'm the market, and I'm still. I got to think about that now, because it's just popping in my brain. Maybe we don't even know what the market is
That's more
because
likely.
we have this idea of what the market is and what the rules are, and maybe the market's way well. Obviously, it is. It's way bigger than what we think it is.
Yeah.
It's way more because it's human action, right? The
Yep.
book, the reality is human action. So when we try to plant this set of rules for what's going on, the market says no. That's for that game. Right now, this market's playing a different game.
And none
I
of
don't
them are
know.
isolated.
Right?
Like one of them is,
Definitely.
the trade deficit or whatever. Well, who knows? Who knows how the trade deficit closes? There's so
Right.
many ways that value crosses borders besides money and goods. There's so many ways that value crosses borders. You just can't know.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like with the debt, right? We can't keep sustaining this magnificent debt, and I still don't think we can. But the people that are incurring the debt or making the debt happen are going, says who?
Yeah, right, right.
You've been saying that since the debt was $800,
Yeah.
and now it's 23 trillion, which isn't even fathomable to a normal mind. How many dollars that is, and it's still going. So maybe none of us know. Maybe none of us know what it is because there's still. I mean, even I guess what I'm saying is even in this fiat stuff, there's still a market working. It's not the one that we say, well, this is ideal, but maybe it's because the market works no matter what. To a certain point, it's more power. And I'm not trying to act like it's a third party, but it's kind of a third party. I'm not trying to act like it's a godly entity, but there's something going on that's keeping it going.
Hmm.
And it's not just because all these evil manipulators out there, because no one's that smart and no one's that powerful.
No.
No one's omniscient enough to know how this stuff works. Buy gold anyway.
Buy gold anyway. Well, it's one of the conundrums that I guess the crypto. We've talked about this a little bit. The blockchain. One of the reasons for blockchain technology is you can make a means of exchange that is intrinsically trustworthy. So it doesn't depend on the trustworthiness of the actors.
Right.
Um, and that was supposed to be a really big value proposition. That was supposed to be a big value add. But one of the things, a friend of mine was telling me that one of the things that has been found is that people um, are way more honest than they need to be. So, for example, if you could get away with lying 1/5 of the time, there'd be no reason for you to be more honest than 80% honest. That would be your
Right.
maximized honesty value. But it turns out that people are like, I don't remember what the numbers are, but let's say your optimum honesty is 80%. People are like 98% honest or something. They're way more honest than they need to be, given how forgiving other people are. And so there were all these predictions for how blockchain technology would make exchange more efficient by eliminating the need for honesty. But then they discovered that people are way more honest than their statistical models. And so their conclusion was that people are irrationally honest. But like, people are just people,
Right.
right? Like, your model was wrong. People are just people. So it could be, in the case of the dollar or fiat currency, it could be that people are pretty agreeable and everybody kind of just wants everything to work. And so, don't rock the boat. Like, it's kind of a universal human trait.
Hmm.
At least when times are pretty good. Like, nobody wins. Nobody wins from a currency war anywhere in the world.
Right.
Really.
Right.
So I don't know.
That is true.
That could be a factor.
Some people don't get hurt, but nobody wins. Don't get hurt is bad,
Yes.
but nobody wins.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no gold star
That's
collectors.
right. Right. Yeah. Even the people are like, who really want to be right about the collapse, they wouldn't have a good time in a collapse, and they know it.
No, we've discussed that over the years too. I mean, there is just it's too terrible to think of. It's terrible. No one escapes that with unscathed.
No.
No one. It's just not possible. Not even the 72-hour bag dudes. Not even the librarians. No one escapes that.
Yeah.
At all. It's terrible. I mean, I've thought about it so many times, and the only uptick I can see from that, the only good thing I can see from that is that the ability to wage war would pretty much end with the inability to pay for it. Now, eventually there would be massive, or leading up to it, there'd probably be some massive war going on. But, I mean, why did the Soviet Union stop? Because they couldn't pay their soldiers anymore.
Yep.
So, you go home.
Go home.
Find out that they didn't join because they were loyal to Mother Russia. No, they were getting paid.
They had to get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loyalties usually end with hungry stomachs.
Yes, and we've talked about that recently. The hardest part of a job is not the work; it's getting paid.
It's getting paid. That's for sure. Buy gold.
Yeah, well, we'll keep our eye on it. We should do a little shout out at the beginning of all the shows, just to track the price.
Yeah, maybe this shouldn't be. No, it's got to be political. I was
This
gonna
is a
say maybe we
political
should
one
just
for
have
sure, but even at the beginning of our other ones, we can just throw it out there, just see how.
For sure.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Keep people up to date. And again, I can't stress enough, and I know. I mean, we've talked about it for so long. It doesn't have to be, well, I got $10,000, I'll go invest it in some silver or gold. If you got a few bucks, it adds up. If you buy 1 ounce of silver a year, when we first told you 8 years ago, you're up there a ways.
Yep. You got a little stack.
One.
You can do this with.
Now you got a stack. Exactly. You can be Scrooge and play, or Prince John, Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Say, aha, gold, beautiful gold. You know what we should do for this show too is have the opening music be "Silver and Gold" by what's that Christmas song by? Can't remember now. Oh, Burl Ives. Silver and Gold. One of my favorite songs. Even though it's a Christmas song. Well, Christmas songs are my favorite.
We can dial that in. Yeah, with this new, we're going to get through the lumps on the new software, and we should be able to do a bunch of stuff like that once it's all dialed in. So
cool.
Anyway,
Silver and gold. Yeah, just buy an ounce of anything. Just it'll even I think people are more entertaining to the thought of when you talk about survivalist stuff like buy we used to say buy 2 cans of food extra, whatever. And over a year's time you've got 24 extra cans. 5 years later, when nothing's happened but you're still doing it, you've got this much. You've got 60 or 120. Um, it's the same thing with this. Just a little bit. It's accumulation. And once you start the first go, then and you can even ask in the comments section. We have you don't have to live in Fairbanks to go down to the gold shop. There's plenty of ways. The last time I bought any precious metals was online from an outfit that's in the States, 3,000 miles away, and they were perfect. They did exactly what they said they would do. So it's and they deal. A lot of you'll find that a lot of people that are dealers in precious metals, not all of them for sure, but a lot of them are doing that with the same mentality that we're talking about. And they're not like these guys in Idaho that I talked to. I actually got to meet them. And they're not just about, I'm making this 35-cent transaction on every piece of silver or 99 cents, whatever. They're excited about people doing it because they see it as good. You're putting a little stability in your life. They encourage the stability because they offer stuff where the markup, is nothing. It's nothing. They're not making a bunch of money off of it. It's kind of like when Aaron used to sell guns for hundreds and hundreds of dollars below what you could get at the Sportsman's Warehouse. He just wanted people to have guns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not say that these people don't make money off of it. Of course they do. They need to, or they won't be there. But there's a lot of good folks out there that you can talk to them, you can email them, you can call them, you can go visit them, and they'll give you the time of day to tell you. There's even like this place in Idaho I was talking about. You can get on a monthly thing, and I think they go down to like $20 a month even, where you just every month they charge you $20 and send you that asset in the mail, whatever that $20. It can be 10,000, it can be 50,000 a month, whatever you want it to be. But they set it up to make it as easy as possible to help you get something, and it's pretty cool. It's not. You don't want something to maybe happen someday and think, "Dang, I've been waiting for this to happen for 20 years," and kept saying, "Well, I don't have this." This is what I think a lot of people do. Well, I never had $50,000 to make it worth my while because I feel like I need 25 ounces of gold to make it worth my while. But for 20 years, you told yourself that. And if you just bought 1 ounce a year, you'd have it now. You'd be to that mark where you said, well, I can't ever afford that many. So start now. Same thing with any kind of, when they say stash $100 a month if you can away. And over the lifetime of your marriage, 45 years later, 50 years later, you'll have all this money accrued. Doesn't work so much now because, that's another thing. When you put your money in savings, they're talking, the interest rates went down another 25 basis points a couple days ago. And some places have negative interest rates where you actually lose money for having money, which is to encourage you to spend it. Well, gold doesn't work that way. Silver doesn't work that way. They're not going to come and shave the edges off every month because interest rates went down or up.
Yep.
That's the end of my speech.
Nope, that's right. That's it. A little bit each month.
Yeah.
Of anything.
It's doable.
Yep.
Of anything. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, Dave. Of anything. Try to do something of anything a little bit. Let's just say you can't even do that, and you'd rather just buy $2 can of soup every month. Do that. Get in a good habit. Learn a new habit. Making your life better. And which in turn I think is important. Making your life better and more sustainable in a downturn side. will give you the ability to help other people that didn't think about it,
Hmm.
that didn't act on it. And that's really what our focus shouldn't be all self-absorbent. This should be, hey, I've got enough now because I looked ahead. I see my hurting neighbor over here that didn't look ahead. Well, too bad he didn't look ahead. No. Hey, at least I did. Come share with me. Or I can afford to give you this out of what I have. The abundance.
Yep.
That should be our goal in many ways.
Yep.
So even if you're thinking in selfish motives and you think, well, because you're just too selfish to even take care of yourself or uncaring to think about your neighbor, because someday he might need you, and you'll be happy to. Those kind of things are reciprocal, I think.
They are. And gifts,
You'll be happy. Yep.
gifts for, family or friends or whatever. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, get them a tenth. Do your Christmas
Yep.
shopping early. Get a tenth of an ounce of gold now.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, people smile when they get something like that. They'll be like, ooh, oh. I even gave my in-laws silver one time, and they're like, oh. Of course, I talked to them a lot about over the years. Well, no, they knew the value of it, but it's a cool thing.
For sure. That's my favorite wedding
And
gift.
oh yeah,
Like an
really
ounce of gold or something. Like, here you go.
nice.
People are weirded
Yeah,
out by it, which is great.
that is. But you maybe take the weirdness out of it from doing it,
Yeah.
or the novelty of it, and
Right.
encourage them to build on it. Hey, you got a little starter here. I'll go.
Yep.
Take that ounce of gold and go trade it for 87 pieces of silver if you want.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Whatever you want. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's good. Cool. Well, that's fun.
Yeah. It's a good stream. We'll continue to work out the kinks and we'll see how this one, well, we'll have to review it, make sure the quality's good. But thanks for joining us and we'll be back in a week.
And we'll try to do it at the regular time that we didn't quite. We did try.
We did try. Yeah,
Everyone tell
something.
Dave thank you in the comments because he was working like a dog trying to get this baby rolling today.
Yeah, oops. Um, yeah, we'll get it ironed out, and we'll see everybody next week, probably for another technology series.
Oh,
Yeah.
like those. Right on.
All right.
Cool. Thanks, Dave. See ya.
Yep. See everybody.